Adiola is the founder of She Flies. She Flies is an online community that aims to strengthen and empower females in the drone industry. Yeah, Adiola, welcome, and yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Just give me a minute, let me sort out my screen.
Okay.
Okay, once again, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adiola Akiwale. Thank you, Sharon, for the introduction. Welcome to the day 2 of Emerging Trends in the Geospatial Industry webinar. Today, we'll be focusing on drone technology. Thank you to Sam yesterday, who talked very extensively on spatial analysis using Python. This webinar is organized by African Women in GIS and Women in Geospatial. Today, I'm just going to run us through the agenda. We're going to have an introduction done already about MapsGEO. I'm just going to skip that. I'm going to talk about what a drone features, safety measures, general drone regulation, variety of solutions, uses and industry, why embrace emerging technology, comparing technologies, articulating respect to those of us in the spatial industry. PTK says real-time kinematics and PTK mapping, post-processing kinematics. And I'm going to share a use case regarding the Lagos State mapping project, which myself and my team have been executing. I'm going to talk about some of the platforms that we're using. I'll share some flight videos, which will interest many of us. I'll share the results of what we have captured so far, some of the challenges that we've encountered and what we're using to mitigate. Can you still hear me?
Hi, Adiola. Did you stop sharing your screen?
If you can hear me, please.
Hi, Adiola.
No, I didn't stop sharing my screen. I think it went down.
Yeah, because I can hear you, but you are breaking, and then I cannot see your screen as well.
You can't see my screen. Okay, so let's just wait for it to. Let's wait for it to come back. I think it has to do with network. Going to try to join again. So I'm joining devices. The first device is the Skype you can hear me from, and the second device I was trying to share my screen. Again, apologies for this. So it's coming up very soon. Please hold on. Okay, I'm back on. Can you please allow me to share my screen, Sharon?
Okay, just a moment. You can now share your screen, Adiola.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, please, can we confirm that we can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was talking about the agenda. I'm going to share some challenges and what we are to mitigate, closing remarks, and then questions and answer. Yes, Sharon has very interested me. So, there are some pictures there for your doing. I'm just going to move on. So now, what is a drone? In the drone, there's many nomenclature that we use in describing a drone. A drone is often referred to as UAV, stands for Unmanned Aerial Systems. Unmanned Aerial Vehicle this time around. Vehicle simply refers to hardware and some of the sensors and things you find on the hardware. Some people refer to drones as unmanned aerial system. Now, the system comprises the software and every other control, including the hardware.
Hi, Adiola.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Adiola, you keep breaking. I don't know, maybe if it's internet connection problems.
I'm sorry.
Hi. Hi, Adiola. Like I was thinking, maybe if you still have some internet connection problem, can we start with the other talk, and then you will come in after the talk, or what do you think? Okay, we are sorry about that. I think our speaker, Adiola, she has some internet connection problems. Hi, Adiola, can you hear me? Hello, Adiola. Okay, we are going to start with the other talk that was supposed to come late after the drone technology talk, and then Adiola will take over from there. Yeah, so we're going to have a talk from MapsGEO, and then I'll try to get in touch with Adiola so that she can come in after the MapsGEO talk. Yeah, we already have the speaker from MapsGEO, Mwatasem Zara. Let me enable you to share your screen, and then you can just start as we handle the problems with Adiola's internet. Zara, please try sharing your screen.
Hello. Are you hearing me?
Yes, Zara, I can hear you.
Yes. Suppose that Hisham Zantut will speak. I will not speak because he will share the screen from his end. I am only a viewer now. He are not able to enter. Can you send him a share for him so he can? Hisham Zantut. Yes, Hisham
Yeah,
Zantut.
He's already in the room. Let me give him permission to share the screen.
Hisham entered. I didn't see him in the share.
Yeah, I can see him.
Okay. Yes, I think he's entered now. Yes.
Yeah, Hisham, please confirm that you can share your screen.
Yes. Yes. Hello. Yes. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hisham.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And we do apologize that Mrs. Shihab had to attend an emergency issue. So I took over to present. My name is Hisham Zantout. I'm the managing partner of MapsGEO. And I will share my screen. Okay, that's good. Okay, my screen share. Tell me if it's visible.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, okay. Well, allow me to good afternoon, everyone. And I hope that this session will be as the previous ones and the coming later will be so successful to everyone. We will be talking. MapsGEO is a private company that has started in 1974 in the mapping industry, where maps, the name was Maps, and Maps is abbreviation of Middle East Aerial Photogrammetric Services. So we were providing topographic maps using the photogrammetric method, which depends on aerial photography at that time. So we had 2 aircrafts and we were flying and carrying out all the topographic mapping using the photogrammetric technique. And this company, you know, started 74 until the starts of the 80, where the hybrid system came in. Everything was conventional.
Hisham, we are not seeing your screen.
How come share? Yes, I did share. And this is my screen. Okay. Share. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay now.
I can see your screen, Hisham.
Okay, because that's what I heard before, and that's why I'm sharing. Okay, I'll try to okay, start again. The company started in 74 with Middle East Aerial Photogrammetric Services. We were doing the topographic mapping through the stereo plotter, which was a mechanical one with a pantograph where everything was drawn by pencil, and then we had to scribe everything in order to produce the topographic map. Till the early 80s, when the computer starts to come up, the first PC we bought it was an 80, and the cost of the computer, which has a 512 floppy disk with a 1 megabyte of memory hard disk, we bought it for $12,000 just for info, so that we have to convert the data from scribing into a digital. So that's period continued for something like 6-7 years, where the system starts to grow and the computers becoming more into the market. And we were moving forward with going into digital with the system. So the topographic maps becomes slowly becoming to be more digital until the early 90s, when the first GIS came up from Esri, and it was ArcView 1. If the ones who knows this from the beginning. So we started with the GIS ArcView 1. So all the data, we were mapping it using the hybrid system and converted into the GIS. As you know, we live in our daily life, every one of us lives in the GIS. If I want to go from point A to B, whether I'm educated, whether I'm having computer or not, I start plan my route and I take the shortest one. So this is where is the thinking. All our thinking is a GIS thinking. The company in late 90s, early 2000, the satellite became, as we all know, started with high resolution imagery. And we were the first, to use the Iconos, which was a 1 meter, because before that, the satellite imagery was low resolution. That made the work from it is a bit not accurate, and was not responding to the market. With the new technology, with the Iconos data, which is the high resolution satellite imagery, starts going into the market, we start using the until today. Nowadays, you will see that there are so many, plenty of satellite imagery in the air, and a lot of suppliers. MapsGEO had all its legal commercial satellites being distributing for Airbus, Maxar, KGS, and Planet 21. So those are the big companies that have they produce and they collect satellite imagery with high resolution data. Most of them are optical, but is also nowadays is the radar imagery, which is from Cabela, and we have legal agreements, for the distribution, because you cannot work on imagery if it's not legal. This is the most important thing that everyone should know about. Okay, MapsGEO through the time, had built up a professional skilled partners who are dedicated in a certain applications. We have Terra Altamira. These are dedicated for the SAR imagery, which works with radar imagery, entity data. These are our Japanese partners who work with artificial intelligence to produce automated maps. All of them, they link to GIS. That's the most important thing. So our final product is a GIS product where you can do a lot of analysis on it and so on and so forth. DevStat is a statistic company. So we work with a statistic company because this is something part of our work. We have Enzam for aerial photography, LiDAR, and drones. And so the company MapsGEO's policy is that to have so many skilled partners, distributed everywhere, so that we can serve the clients the closest possible and with the cheapest and high competitive prices. Our distribution, our partners and our offices that we share with them locally, for example, in Abuja with FISAS Limited in Abuja, and with Professor Goodwill in Accra, we have Daystar Geodata, and in Luanda, we have Swaidana Group, and in Cape Town, which is South Africa, which is Mrs. Uma. She's in GIS, Martinez, in Muscat and Middle East, and also in Australia, in Europe. So these are the partners we work with. Here, what we see is our services in GIS, 2D, 3D maps, and data analytics, ortho imagery, and so these are the group. Maps has a control and consultant group that can even provide the customers with what is best for their solution, in addition to the production of mapping. So we have in China and India the production centers, because we need to produce massive products. So that's why we have to have an environment which can give a competitive solutions and competitive pricing too. Here, this slide just shows everyone, just to know that we have approximate, there is a 3,372 satellites flying in space, where you can see that the countries with the orange is countries that they have satellites. and the one which is with hachured background, also orange. These countries that not just own, but they do launch. They do launch satellites from their countries too. As an Earth observation satellites, now in orbit is around 513, and this number is growing year after the year, you know, based on the inventions, based on what is being developed from the satellites, what can detect, and so on and so forth. So on the optical side, because we have two types of satellites, the optical, which is what our eyes can see with the normal eye, and we have the radar imagery, which is an imagery that is being transmitted in grayscale, but it's through a specific techniques. And we have the bands that is not visible, but is being collected, like the and other bands that can be used for detecting other information. MapsGEO also, along with its partner satellite supplier 2180 in China, we can even offer for those countries, you know, whom they don't have satellites, the black ones, as you can see, the dark countries. These, they do not have satellites, but we have solution for them. Is that instead of having satellites which cost over 100 million, you know, of dollars, which sometimes the country does not have such budget, so we offer them to install what we call a virtual ground station, which act exactly as if they have a satellite for them, and they can do the tasking themselves. So we can install for them the system where they can and train the people on, and within the country or certain clients. So they have their own mission. They take the imagery the way they want within their cone, and they can download the data and process it by themselves. So this thing, as if they are owning the sensors, and we can install with the virtual system is around between 30 to 38 satellites with various resolution that goes from 0.4 meter down to 30 meter, you know, and optical plus radar imagery. This is to help, you know, governments with lower prices, definitely with cheaper solution, but they own satellites. This is, for example, they can see the satellites which they will be coming over their lands, and the satellite planners, they define which areas to be collected and so on. So they monitor the movement of the satellite, when it is coming, when it's collecting. But the most important thing with the satellite is the weather. Especially for optical satellite imagery. The optical satellite imagery are sun synchronized, and they need light. If there is clouds in the sky, it means that it will hide the land. So that's why we have, along with the system, is a forecast weather where we can predict for the coming week and the coming month what's happening on the cloud thing, so that we can plan properly. MapsGEO had executed thousands of projects since 1974, as I'm telling you. And we were in the Middle East, in Africa, in Europe, and in Asia. And we have executed thousands of projects in Madagascar, in Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Niger, and so on and so forth. And all of them in GIS mapping, plus orthophoto imagery and data capture, plus statistical. The vertical markets that we work with rail, power lines, oil and gas factories, pipelines, land and properties, and definitely all those things we use the satellite imagery for data collections, for mining, for data analysis, and so on and so forth. Oil and gas explorations, this is so important because this is something, a field that can be used through satellite imagery. The satellite imagery can be a preliminary data startup with, because it's a low cost. That's the most important thing, to have quickly, to allow the engineers to study the area, the environment, and where they have their factors, so they know where to build their refineries and so on for that. Mining and for mineral exploration, this is something, a field that is so interesting to the explorers because the optical satellite imagery will cover everything above ground. Okay, with the data analysis, with the various bands that we have combination and data analysis that we can extract what can be visible on the ground, because always a mineral, when it is there in the ground, there will be particles up in the on the surface. So this will help us to determine preliminary. Once we determine and we found that there is, for example, iron here, or copper, or gold, or whatever, you know, we then for the project we send our geotechnical people to make sample on ground so that they can dig and they can study and they can determine what is available. Also on the environment, it helps us a lot, the satellite imagery with the data that we can give the land classification and land cover is there, and we can know the healthiness of the vegetations and how is the urban growth and good for constructions and to know everything. So the satellite imagery, the most important thing that the audience should know that it is good for large areas. For very small areas, a square kilometer or less than that, drones are good for it. But when you talk about when you want to study a city, or one wants to study a country, or want to study a large area, satellite imagery can give the resolution needed, which is needing down to 30 centimeter or 40 or 50, and can give the solution right with a very economical budgeting. And that's good for urban planning, for the government, and large projects determination. Also, in the good thing about the satellite imagery is that we can collect stereo imagery. When we collect stereo imagery, this can give us the technology that we can do and map the ground in 3D. So we can collect the buildings, we can collect in true elevations with an accuracy of 1 to 2 pixels. You know, if we are talking about 30 centimeter accuracy, so we are talking about accuracy of 50 centimeter. This is very good for urban planning, for the government to be aware of the databases and so on. Also an infrastructure for monitoring if there is a big mine or a big construction, so that you can collect the image every 2 weeks or every month or every quarter, so you can monitor the constructions, how is it going. And on top of that, you can compute for the contractors, you know, if they had done an excavations or cut and fill, what much, and if your projects, you know, is to be paid, you know, based on the work had been done. Here is just what can you do with the thing? What we see here is a 3D city, is completely mapped from the satellite imagery with using 50 centimeter stereo. And we collected all the buildings, the small and the big ones, everything on the ground. As you know that at GIS, the land, there is no empty ground in it. Every single polygon, every single point, or every single line, it has an owner, it has an information. So we have to maintain this. That's the GIS. And the GIS, it is something, it's a project that we should all think of. It is not just something that I do the project and that's finished. No, GIS is an continuous updating, and because the data on ground get changed. Either buildings had been demolished or buildings had been raised up in new ones, new roads and river paths, floods, and so on. So the GIS is a continuous. That's the most important, that everyone knows that the project is not do it and finish it. Whoever is the client is should, especially the government, it has to maintain it and carry out the update. Here is just to see it in 3D. I hope that the video is working well. So you can demonstrate the city in 3D, and you can rotate around it. This is excellent to see where are the city, where are the spots of the city that needs enhancements, needs attention, needs enhance the infrastructure of it, built up areas if they are with the laws going on, and maintaining the thing. So this database, it's all will be inputted into the computer, where every single building, it has its own reference, and who are the tenants over there, the owners, and can give all the information about it, from electricity going in, electricity going out, water in, water out, which have telephones and not. So this database field will be so rich, and you can enhance it and increase it as much as needed by each departments in the area, for the electricity, Ministry of Electricity, water, and other ministries too. So that will be controlling the city by the government. So also the good thing about the satellite imagery, as you can see here, there's a lot of areas that sometimes the parcels, the land registrations, they have good maps, but they are not linked on the ground correctly, because those were built earlier in previous time when there were no good surveying, maintain, or some. So the satellite imagery can solve a lot of problems, and this is what we have done in a big project in Portugal 10 years ago. In fact, there were so many villages that they had a sketch maps, but they did not have cadastral. So what we did for them is we collect the satellite imagery, and we went on the ground and took ground control points. And then we sat with the rulers, with the citizens, the marking on the satellite imagery, the locations of each parcel. And then those things went to the field and measured by GPS, so that now they have a very good and accurate maps, for that. So the satellite had solved a lot of problems, bringing, the justice to within people, and their deeds, become more digital and secure. Also, MapsGEO is experienced in the 50K map production on small scale mapping, and those things are done automatic nowadays with the use of the artificial intelligence softwares, and applications that can carry out a lot of data analysis and can differentiate built up from vegetations and roads and rivers. So these things can help us to update the maps. These maps, the small scale maps, are really useful for the government for planning for the country cover. It helps them to make this in a GIS, again, in a GIS, because they can get into the computer and ask, get from through data analysis, show us the built up areas, what are the sizes on each village, what is being expanded per year, and so on and so forth. So they can control with on ground and actual. Definitely the satellite imagery had helped a lot for the geological mapping, because the geology is so important, to study where are the faults, where are the problems, if any earthquake happened, so what things will be moved, what, and so on and so forth. So it helps in the geology. Recently, a new technique had been developed. So as you can see, that the satellite imagery is not just an image that taken above ground. Sometimes it's a beautiful imagery, beautiful design, but it has so many applications that the engineers are using it to extract, first of all, speed on time, lower the cost of having good and accurate data needed exactly. For the satellite bathymetry, as you know, that the whole world, they have the whole shorelines, the whole world coast, Imagine the number of projects which is along the coastline, from harbors, from oil explorations, and so on, so forth. So the satellite imagery, because you want to do that, you have to have a high expensive equipment, you know, like multi-beam sonar and others, which cost a lot. But with the satellite imagery now, we can go into along the shorelines. We can reach down to minus 30 meters, you know, along the coast. That helps, you know, if there is any construction or any pipeline wants to be laid down along the shoreline, any civil projects or construction, so they know exactly on the depth. Not that, but also monitoring the habitable environmental along the shore, so that if there are species that should be preserved and not to be destroyed, so those things can be highlighted too. And here, for example, on one of our project in Antigua, if you see all the colored area, these are elevation models below water, you know. Zero is the coastline, and all the red, going from red down to blue to purple, you see is going down into the depth. If we want to get, and this is a large area, if we want to get a multi-sound beamer to measure and get the bathymetry, it will cost millions in dollars. And this thing didn't cost a couple of thousands, you know, just to get those accurate information, and help a lot the government to know where they are. Definitely the satellite imagery nowadays, we have been partnered with EOS, and we are their distributor now for selling the land monitoring for vegetation. So this is something as a very intelligent and smart agricultural monitoring. So we can, on any parcel, you know, we can monitor it along the whole year, and we collect every 5-6 days imagery on top, and we're using now 10-meter resolution, the Sentinel, but all the algorithm, all the data analysis for all the indices for the vegetations, you know, being poor in, there's no moisture in it, there is a stress, a lack of water, the vegetation is not growing, the crop is not growing healthy, defining the disease, what's going on. So all those things are automated now. And the user, which is the farmer, at the end one is the farmer, you know, we will have a small tablet, which everyone now is becoming a tool that is a necessary tool within the work, you know. So he can monitor his field, and if there is any deficiency, it will tell him. So he will go and immediately, because this reporting comes every week for him, or every 2 weeks according to his priority. So it will help him to immediately stop the damages, you know, and repair and quickly enhance the crop. So this is an automated portal. Will provide them. Only what we need is the parcel of the farmer or the government. This is good for government if they are helping a certain areas, you know, so that they can monitor and help them and give advices, you know, through their agricultural engineers and so on and so forth. Among the solutions that MapsGEO is offering now is to help countries, you know, to have a full country cover. You know, an imagery, if you want to collect it, you know, it will cost, you know, for a small area, 25 square kilometer, it will cost you around $500. So imagine a country with like Nigeria is in 1 million square kilometer. So imagine if we multiply by 25, you see that this is not realistic. So we came up with our supplier is to have a very attractive, competitive low price for country cover, that goes down to a couple of dollars, and we will give them a full country cover. And this country cover is recent, and if he's interested to update it every year, then we will have a solution. And this is necessary for each country, because this is a what we call it, it's a page every year of the country. So they know, the government, everything what's happening every year on a country. What are the changes? Where are the growth? And they monitor their borders, and they monitor even the growth. Where are the poor? And with the help of other statistical data, can locate more real on ground what is going on for that. In addition, the new now satellites that had been launched from our suppliers is to capture night imagery. Night imagery is very, very helpful in areas where, especially in cities, and in areas where you can see, for example, if we take a well-developed city like Rome, for example, the center city, it's all given the lights, and the city is lightened. But this can help the urban planner to see why there is too much light here in this specific area. So they can study the energy which is produced from the current installed lights and bulbs, so they can replace it with a safer and less with a safer, cheaper, and sustain the energy. So that's so things, it helps them, and they can see that there are dark areas, why these are not lighted, so that it gives a lot of things. Where are the living areas, and nothing. And even this night imagery, you see nothing. So we have the algorithm is to make it transparent, only to show the lights on the imagery, so that we can overlay it on an optical imagery, so that we know why it's dark here, why it's too much here, light, and so forth. So this is excellent for urban planners and for the Ministry of Electricity, because it helps them to reduce electricity and give more. On oil facilities also, this is we build a lot of applications that can help refineries and oil and gas owners to check and make change detections, environmental assessment, and goes by the laws, and where are the tanks, and so on and so forth. So, and we can build for them the GIS, where they can, for the maintenance, they know which pipe and which area should be maintained through a program. On mineral, as I explained earlier, so we can determine as a preliminary, this is an area we had taken the photos and the satellite imagery, and we did the analysis. So it gives a shallow information on the floor, on the ground surface, and then we send the surveyors to collect speeches from that and samples, so that we know how much the field is there. In change detection, definitely in pipeline routing. So it helps all engineers, every engineer on the ground, everyone who is working on the ground, every ministry working definitely on that. In risk assessment, for example, with the use of the satellite imagery right now nowadays, there's a full country, a full cover of the whole earth, on certain months, certain years, so whenever a crisis happens, for example, like here, we see the flood. Okay, so the water had covered so many buildings. So with the previous imagery that is taken in archive, so we can make a damage assessment quickly. What are the areas that have been damaged, and who got affected and who's not? So we can delineate these. And definitely, without the GIS, all what I am saying, it is a pain without it, because the satellite imagery or the pictures or whatever you capture on drones or whatever you capture with any instrument, okay, if you don't translate it into a GIS that help you quickly map or quickly do the data analysis, then the massive data will mean nothing to the engineer. So he can't work without the GIS nowadays, Also, we can serve the military, definitely, and these are classified issues that we work directly with the Ministry of Defense for. Of course, you have seen Google and you have seen other things, but nowadays is that the systems become with the fast computers, with the fast processors that are available, we are able now to cover the city and drape the facades of the imagery on top of the satellite imagery in 3D, and we can, as if we are above flying, with the data. With the satellite imagery. The GIS data is so important, for the telecommunication. And nowadays, with the invention of the 5G, 5G requires a lot of poles on the ground. So they need to be seen, a pole can be seen from the other. So without GIS, without mapping 3D the buildings and the constructions, so how you will be able to put the poles? You can do that, but you will spend a lot of money for nothing, because you will say, okay, I'll take a 30-meter pole and I will distribute it over the city. Yes, you paid a lot of money, but if you had a 3D map in a GIS form and you insert, you will tell you in each position what is the maximum height you need from the pole. Sometimes you need 5 meters, sometimes you need 10 meters, sometimes you need 20 meters. So these things will give the right solution with the minimum economy, so that can save money for other works to be done. For the oil and gas, I spoke about the what we have seen above is everything about optical imagery, something we can see, something we can analyze quickly, something we can write the algorithm for it. Now, for the oil exploration, especially on the sea or on land, if you can see down, this is a gray imagery. This is a radar imagery where we have collected thousands of imagery on top of this spot, just to check, is this a leftover from ships, or is this an oil reservoir underneath? So it gives us an indication that there is a big reservoir underneath, and these are oil spill on the seep up on the surface. So that's a Santa Barbara oil field. So with the use of the radar imagery, with the optical, we would not have been able to see it. We will see dirts on top. It's like the one which is on top right corner. You see, it's like that. So you don't know if this is a leftover from oil or it's a seep under the water. With the radar imagery, we are able now to monitor if there is any movement on the ground, or if there is any subsidence, if the ground is going down or up due to huge constructions. So with the yep.
Yeah, let's try to wrap up. Today we have 2 talks. Yeah, so
okay.
because
All right. Okay. Yeah, I reached to something very close. Yeah.
Okay.
So with the radar imagery, I'm able to reach to millimeter in displacement. So if the ground is going down or up, this is a project in Europe where we have measured the route of the railway, and we noticed that there is above, these are underground railway, where the ground is going down slowly through time, which is in millimeters, but this gives an indication. With the radar imagery nowadays also, we can, it's good for the ship, because using radio signal nowadays, so we can monitor the ship, because each ship should have a radio signal is left open. But for smugglers, they switch it off. And now with the new technology which had been developed with our satellite suppliers, they have 3 satellites go together where they can detect even the one smugglers, and that gives a lot of support to the defense and for local governments and ministries, to catch up for those smugglers and thieves. Where is Maps going nowadays? As you can see now, big data is everywhere on the internet, on the Facebook, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, everywhere, on the media, which is we all using. And with the use of such big data, along with the remote sensing, which is the satellite imagery and the data analysis, so we can link those data together using the artificial intelligence, it helps us to derive what we call a fast decision support system, and can help this thing, the United Nations, to extract KPIs and SDGs. All of us, we know that the goals between 2020 and 2030 is to help that there should be minimal poverty around the world and minimum people uneducated, and so on. So with the use of big data nowadays, so with the remote sensing for the location and the artificial intelligence to derive the statistical data, it helps us to directly monitor the problems and give those solutions to the government with the support of the government, so that the government can take the actions quickly. And these are what we have developed, a department with 2 PhD doctors who are working hard on developing solutions based on statistics to give with the support of the satellite imagery. And at the end, all what I can say is I didn't start with, but thanks very much for the woman, the African women in GIS, and Mrs. Sayana, who introduced us to you. And we are MapsGEO, we can be of good support to all the audience, whoever needs any information, any support, any technical advice, and even to help them if they have projects in, so that we can be more economical to them. And Maps is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hisham, for that amazing presentation on MapsGEO, and it's great to hear all the good works that you're doing. Yeah, because of time, we're just going to jump straight into the questions. We have a couple of questions here.
Please.
Yeah, the first question is from Nedala, yeah, who is asking, he's inquiring about the spatial and temporal resolution of your data. And the second question is it radiometrically corrected?
Right. Yes. I mean, the data, first of all, to answer the temporal data, these can be with the resolution. For example, nowadays, as we all know, that Sentinel is a temporal data that can be using the Google Earth engine. You can extract those data, but these are, vary from 30 to 15 to 10 meters. Okay, but these are free, you can have those things. The resolution is very low. In our case, when we talk about high resolution satellite imagery, so okay, you can have 50 centimeter, you can have 1 meter, you can have 2.5 meter, you can have the resolution wanted, because each of those, have a different price, because the higher you go into the resolution, going from 5 down to 0.3, the price becomes more expensive. And to do temporal, okay, so we had, because we are private companies, and along with our satellites, they work on on projects. Okay, so they are not regularly collecting the Earth, but with all the various satellite imageries, okay, we can say that there are so many imagery available, over time, for that. But for example, we are working on a dam for Australia, and they work with 50 centimeter imagery, and this is the for over 6 years we are collecting and still collecting nowadays, every 3 months. So we collected at 50 centimeters, so that becomes a private project. It is not for every area because it's so expensive. That's why we have to work it on a private, and this is what also the satellite providers, they work on private projects commercially.
Okay, great. Yeah, the next question is, could you explain how water quality monitoring is done using satellite imagery?
Is what, again, I just missed the first words.
So a brief explanation how water quality monitoring is done using satellite imageries.
Okay, monitoring. So, okay, for any area, it has to be defined, by the clients. And he requests, for example, wants to collect it every 2 weeks or every 1 month. So he will give us the information and what is the resolution of this one. So based on this, we study this with the satellite planners, and will give us, as I have indicated, at the beginning here, that they study on the weather forecasts because it's so important. And if he's looking for optical imagery, it means that he's looking for that it should be cloud-free for that. So we study and we can tell him that yes, it is feasible. Those 2 months is. But then winter is coming or autumn is coming. So that's where the parameters are being studied well and forwarded to the client. And then he will decide, yes, I will go for 2 months or 3 months, or then he will select with us what is the best. And then based on the needs, then we can tell him the budget cost of that. But definitely what we need is the resolution, the area of interest. One thing to remember, that any area, if we want to collect it new, it's 100 square kilometer, because that's the minimum requirement for new collection. But if it's an archive, the minimum area is 25 square kilometer, which is 5 by 5. And there's where we are. And for monitoring an area, since it is a new collection every time, so it will be, the minimum area is 100 square kilometer.
Okay, great, thank you. The other question we have is, what are the spectral bands combination used when applying remotely sensed data to map minerals?
The shortwave, if you can use the digital globe, which is Maxar, which is our satellite supplier, they collect the SWIR, the shortwave, and the infrared, the near infrared, plus there are the long wave also. So it's around 12 bandwidth we have to use, to get, because for each mineral there is some of them they want band 12 plus band 7 and band 4. Some they need band 8, and depends on the mineral, what we are looking at that particular area, the combination of the data analysis, and we will put the bandwidth and the bands needed.
Yeah, so 2 last questions. Did the satellites detect or locate all the radio waves or the frequencies?
The radio waves is the one which I mentioned about Hawkeye. These are only dedicated for the signal that the radio signal between 112 hertz until the 12,000 hertz. Any signal in between, it can be filtered And based on the continuous receiving of this signal, the signal can be determined. Is it coming from the ship? Is it coming from those mobile telecommunication radio transmitters? Okay, so this is something it's being collected. For example, one of the projects on the border between India and Pakistan, they discovered that there were smugglers over there, and they were not using the cellular phones. They were using radio signal phones. So we were able to detect them, and we notified the Indian government about it. Definitely, this is all classified, works with the Ministry of Defense. So they know that, and they were able to surround this area and hold it down.
Yes, the last question. Do you have an office in Amman, Jordan?
We have our partner in Amman. It's GCE, yes. Okay, I'll go ahead and show it to you. It's here. Okay, it's GCE Computers, and the CEO is Engineer Saad Aqil. Yes, we can. And whoever is needing further information on that, he can send us an email. We will. I think, Sharon, you have our emails, so please forward it to all concerns, and we will reply definitely. And our partner is in Amman, yes, in Amman, GCE Computers.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Hisham, for that amazing
Most
presentation
welcome.
on MapsGEO, and it's great to listen to all the amazing things that you're doing on remote sensing and GIS. Yeah, that's the end of the session on MapsGEO, and we're just going to jump straight to the drone technology talk by Mrs. Adiola Akinwale. We are sorry, there was some technical problems that we experienced at the beginning. Yeah, so we had to bring the drone technology talk at this time. Adiola, please confirm that you can share your screen, and then we can proceed. Thank you.
Yes, Sharon, thank you very much. And thank you, Hisham. I'm just going to run through this because I'm very conscious of our time. So I had started earlier, I had introduced myself. I'm sure that my slides will be shared by the organizers so you can get more information. So moving on, I'm going to be continuing with drone features. A drone basically has payload, including cameras and batteries. That is everything that the drone can carry. It's usually autopilots for flight control. There's usually a GPS on board. There's PPK for those of us that are surveyors and GIS experts. PPK simply stands for post-processing kinematics. There's a gimbal for stability, remote controls, or ground control system. There's FPV, which is first-person view. This helps us to see whatever the drone is viewing per time. There's an antenna for telemetry. There are different kinds of sensors. Ish mentioned some things about geological sensors. Drones can also carry geological sensors such as spectrometer, magnetometer, LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging. There's a fuselage which carries the entire casing, all this, which is the casing that carries all these features. Now, I'm going to talk about some general drone safety measures. You should always obtain permission before you fly. You should follow due processes. In Nigeria, we have the NCAA, which is the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Every country always has a civil aviation authority. You should always check with them, check on their website, understand the rules that obtains in your environment, and always follow the rules. Stay away from airports and restricted areas. The class of airspace that we fly in is the G class here in Nigeria. I'm sure that applies to other countries as well. Many aircraft always come low, so as low as 700 meters. You don't want to collide with manned aircraft, so you always need to check the regulations. And you need to stay away from airports. You need to check the weather, and you need to fly in good weather. Optimally, you should fly at 400 feet. which is about 120 meters. And if you want to go higher than that, you need to get permission. You should wear your PPE, that is your personal protective equipment, such as reflective jackets, scarves, and glasses. You should inform those around you so people don't get startled and then you cause a stampede or you scare people. You should always observe visual line of sight. And if you're certified to fly beyond visual line of sight, you can't do that, but you should always have an observer. Then, like I said earlier, is engage the local authorities. Now, for personal use, you don't need an ROC. An ROC is what we call our pass operator certificate. For personal use, for leisure, you don't need an ROC, but do not fly indoors. And you need to observe the general safety measures that I spoke about earlier. And do not fly over people without their warning, because you don't want to startle people and then people begin to run and then you cause some damages or some accidents. For commercial operations, like I said earlier, you check the NCAA, obtain an ROC, which is the license to fly. In Nigeria, we have various bodies that help to regulate the licenses, such as the National Security Advisor's Office, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, the State Security, and such like. You should have a team in Nigeria here. You should have a team that is made up of pilots and operations manager. Pilots usually have PPL or CPL, that's commercial pilot license or personal pilot license. You need to do it right. You need to check the weather. Weather is a very important factor. You need to know how to observe the weather and the different types of cloud and how to tell if it's going to be a thunderstorm or just light showers and such like. You need to submit your flight information to the national agency that manages NOTAMs. NOTAM simply represents notice to airmen. There are many people using the airspace, and they all fly at different airspace. You need to notify others so that there is no collision. You need to prepare risk assessment and operational safety case. You need to have ADSB, transponders, and then you need to have an insurance. You need to have an insurance in case of any eventuality. It refers to automatic detection, surveillance, broadcast, transponder. It is usually a hardware device that is mounted on a drone. It sends signal to tell others that you are at a particular location, and it's also able to receive signal so that you can understand where others are. Now, there are different types, just listed some of them. We have the first one, which is a quadcopter, which has 4 rotors. We have an hexacopter, which has 6 rotors. We have an octocopter, which has 8 rotors. We have a fixed wing, which usually requires a very long runway, and it usually has more endurance. And then over the years, we're talking about emerging technologies. Drone technology has evolved over the years. Nowadays, we've moved from those of them that have lower endurance to those of them that have higher endurance, such as the fixed wing. We're going to be talking about this Tigua S410, this red drone, very soon. And we've also evolved to those who can combine some features of the quadcopter or the multi-rotors with the fixed wing. We call them VTOLs, vertical takeoff and landing. And they also have considerable endurances. The drones below that I show here are what we call fixed VTOLs, that is vertical takeoff and landing. And then I'd like to discuss some of the uses and the industries that we can apply the drone technology to. The first one here is the surveying and geographic information system industry. Here is a real estate, we can say, very beautiful building here being captured by drone. We can also use drones in communications equipment inspection, the oil sector inspection. We understand that in those days, when the oil industry wants to perform, say, maybe gas leakage or oil detection, they usually have to shut down their plants. Shutting down their plants or their equipment means that they have to lose a lot of money. Nowadays, they don't have to shut down their plants, they don't have to shut down their equipment. They're able to carry out such leakages And so in that way, they save time and they save money. Drones have been used in agriculture, in telecommunications industry, in even in delivery. Amazon uses drones nowadays to deliver. We've seen drones delivering pizzas to people, and the list goes on. We're talking about emerging technology. The technology keeps emerging every day. So why must we embrace this emerging technology? It increases profits. An example is the case in hand that I've just referred to in the case of oil sector. It increases customer satisfaction, ease of carrying out more complex projects. Yes, I heard Isham talking about the sat imagery, which is able to cover a lot of land mass. The drone sector has come to stay. Nowadays, we are seeing the technology evolving and evolving, and it keeps evolving day by day. Drones are able nowadays to capture very large areas nowadays because of the endurance and because of the emerging technologies. It saves time, it saves money, and it also saves lives. It eliminates inaccuracies. Satellite imageries sometimes come at a resolution of say 30 centimeters, 50 centimeters. Drone nowadays is able to give us as much as 3 centimeters. That is absolutely fantastic accuracy and resolution we're talking about. Yes, and some time past, we often use aircraft to capture a large area for surveys, for base map, to create different solutions when it comes to enterprise geographic information system. Hiring this aircraft costs lots and lots of millions of dollars. Nowadays, we can do the same. Maybe it will take a little more time, but we can achieve even better results, and then we can spend less amounts. So that is why we should always embrace this drone technology. So I'm going to be talking about real-time kinematics mapping. How do we do? Just a simple walkthrough. We need to prepare our drone using our checklist, and then we plan the mission with there are different mission planners out there, mission planner apps out there. We plan the mission, and then you send the mission to your drone and you send it out to fly. This is the drone is done flying the mission, carrying out the mission. You download your images from the SD card, and then you upload into post-processing software. There are various post-processing software out there. Example is the AWiGIS, Pix4D. You can lay your hands on all this post-processing software, and you can play around with them. After you've loaded your imagery, your images into the post-processing software, we carry out what is called auto-mosaic in photogrammetry. And then you're able to produce an orthophoto. You can export your orthophoto. You're also able to produce a DEM, which is a digital elevation model. And you're able to also produce 3D images, as the case may be. So that is for real-time kinematics. The difference between real-time kinematics and post-processing kinematics is that real-time kinematics is usually carried out during the flight. There's a GPS board. The GPS is able to obtain correction data while the drone is flying, while post-processing kinematics is able to correct the data after the images have been captured. It corrects the data in the cloud using post-processing kinematics software. So here we often need to use a base station, a GNSS receiver, a base station. Then your drone connects to the base station, and then you also use your mission planner. In ASECO, where I work, we use the ASECO Ground Control Station, which is a bespoke app. ASECO owns this proprietary software mission planner. We also use the QGCS. We also use the mission planner, autopilot mission planner. So we go through the same process. We load the images after the drone has captured, and we've logged our correction data using the GNSS receiver. You download your images. Before you upload into the post-processing software, you should correct the images. You correct the images, and then you upload the images into the post-processing software. You generate your orthophoto, and then you can also export your DEM. So very quickly, I'm going to be moving on to a use case, which is the Lagos State Mapping Project, which we are currently executing. Myself and my team, we are currently executing the Lagos State Mapping Project. Just an overview of this project. ASECO Nigeria, by the way, as ASECO is the fifth largest IT company in Eastern Europe, and ASECO Nigeria was founded by our CEO and MD in person of Simon Melchior and Adefoluma Jekodumi. ASECO was contracted by Lagos State government to produce an orthophoto for the Lagos State. Before now, we were contracted to supply 2 unmanned aerial vehicles. I'm going to be showing that very soon. The UAVs are called Tigua S410. They have an endurance of about 4 to 6 hours, and they are fixed wing drones. We were contracted to produce an orthophoto of 5 centimeters or less. Also, to give you a background, about 10, 11 years ago, Lagos State government had an aircraft and flew over Lagos and produced an orthophoto of 10 centimeter resolution. So in this case, after 10 or more years, we want to do better. So we were contracted to produce 5 centimeter orthophoto using unmanned aerial vehicles. But right now we are producing the orthophoto at 2.7 centimeters, which is even a better result than we envisaged. So in order for us to carry out this, this project, we make use of Lagos State establishments such as stadium, schools, local government, and any other private state that is suitable for our equipment. Because we have different terrains at different locations, we also needed to employ other aircraft. You can see a picture of myself, my team on field. This next slide just shows our work plan. In order for us to execute this project, we needed to divide Lagos into 4 zones. So we have the Ekpe zone, we have the Ikorodu zone, we have the Ikeja zone, and we have the Badagry zone. We are currently executing in the Ikorodu zone, which is just right here in the middle. So some of the platforms that we use, the Cobra VTOL drone. VTOL simply refers to vertical takeoff and landing. The Cobra has 1.5 hours endurance. The Cobra drone is a proprietary drone that belongs to ASECO Nigeria. We're also using the Believer Striver drone, which has 2 hours endurance, is also a VTOL. We are using a Wingtra, which has 45 minutes endurance. And we are also using the Tigua S410, which we deployed to Lagos State government. This drone is the major drone that we're going to be using for the execution of this project. It has 4 to 6 hours endurance. And this drone is actually a fixed wing. So it usually requires a long runway before flight. So we usually need to have a very suitable environment for us to be able to fly this. I'd just like to show you some of the videos of some of our operations. And like I mentioned earlier, we use, apologies, like I mentioned earlier, because of the nature of the execution of this project, we'll always have to use Lagos State schools. And this next video is the time when we had to go to one of the schools. The students were quite excited to see a drone flying in their school. Okay. So here I'm going to be showing a video of the Tigua S10 takeoff. And I'm also going to be showing the video of the landing of the Tigua. Okay, so here I'm showing some of the results of the data capture that we have carried out. I'm going to be comparing images from 10 years ago and then images from now. On the screen, you can see an existing image, some of the old images that Lagos State has in their archive. This is a sample image of an area in Ikorodu, Lagos State. This was part of the images that were captured 10 years ago. This has a resolution of 10 centimeters. And in the same area, you can see first, you can see the level of development that has been carried out over the years. And then you can see that the image is sharper than what is currently existing. So again, I flip back, this is 10 centimeters, and now we have 2.7 centimeters resolution. I'm going to show more images. Here we see that there were just trees and very sparse buildings in this environment. And 10 years later, we have lots of buildings and lots of development. The same thing applies here. You can actually carry out change detection to understand the level of development. And this is very useful, especially for the people who work in land use charge, who want to take property tax. They want to understand how many buildings do we have in Lagos State and how many buildings can we actually generate income from. More sample images, just compare images. See of the image is quite obvious. Okay, in executing this project, we've encountered quite a number of challenges. In the middle here, you see an image of when we started the project and when we had major challenges, especially when it comes to the weather. We had major thunderstorms. If you look at the image very well, you see the thick dark cloud. And on this particular day, all our infrastructure were blown away, the canopies and everything. So like I said earlier, it is always very important to be able to forecast the weather and tell when there's going to be a thunderstorm, light showers, rainfall, dark cloud, and all that. Again, talking about the aircraft, we had to go through a lot of learning curve. Initially, one of our aircraft was a hand launch fixed wing, which is a Believer hand launch fixed wing. We had a lot of crashes. I'm not going to be showing you our crashes today, but I'm going to be showing you one of our successful hand launch events. Just watch. Just watch. So that was one of our successful launches. We've had issues with weather. Of course, a lot of wear and tear because of the extensive mapping that we are carrying out. There's a lot of wear and tear on the drones. We also have takeoff limitations, and we've had to work around all these limitations to come out as a success during the execution of the project. We have security issues that affect the speed of the execution, and we've had to work around all these challenges. Some of our mitigation plan is to expand the team so that we can fly at 2 different locations at the same time. We've also had to embrace emerging technology in terms of expanding the infrastructure. We've had to move hand launch to VR drones. Then we've had to employ security so that we can out there while flying. One of the things that we've had to do is to engage communities as we get to a new location. Because it's an emerging technology, many people don't know about this technology yet. So it looks strange to them. Sometimes they think that you want to come and grab land, you want to come and steal their land. And so I'm back. I'm back. In closing, I'd like to say that everyone needs to be dynamic and innovative and embracing emerging technologies. Technology has come to stay. We should always read and research and keep up with the trends. We should also partner with industry experts. Nobody knows it all. It's always good to partner. Together, we can achieve much more. And we should always never give up, always strive to succeed and to keep pushing. Every success story starts with an idea. Once you have an idea, once you conceive an idea, you should always push out your idea out there and then find the right people to execute with. So that would be all from me. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to take questions now. Thank you, Sharon. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Adiola, for that amazing presentation on drones. I'm so passionate about drones, and when drone technology is being discussed, I really I really listen keenly on the discussions, and there's so many questions in the chats that we have, and I'll also ask a couple of questions as well. Yeah, so we're going to start with we have this question from, yeah, the question is the hours of endurance of the drones based on the UV? Like basically,
I believe UV is ultraviolet.
yeah. Sure, go ahead, Dadiola. Hi, Adiola, did you get the question? Wait, seems like we lost Adiola.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, Adiola, we lost you. You got the question?
Yes. Yes, I got the question.
Yeah.
So the endurance is not based on UV. It is usually based on the electric system, which is batteries or the hybrid power supply. It could be an electric propulsion engine, which will use fuel. It will use petrol. You could have batteries on board. It all depends on what the drone can carry. So it's usually dependent on battery. There's also what we call the telemetry, which has to do with antenna connections from the ground control system, yeah, to the aircraft itself. So it all depends on how much your drone can carry and how far the telemetry range is.
Great. Yeah, the other question we have is how far does the Tigua go before you lose connection with the RC?
Okay, it can go as far as 20 kilometers. Yes, it can go as far as 20 kilometers. Usually on drones, there's what we call a functionality called fail-safe. So fail-safe is a functionality that tells the drone to come back home once connection is lost. So sometimes some people disable this functionality. If you disable this functionality, it is not advisable, but if you disable this functionality and you've sent your flight plan on the drone is usually able to execute the entire mission and then come back home to the home point, which has always been recorded, which is usually recorded before you start the flight. So sometimes when you disable this functionality, the drone will capture everything it needs to capture. It will finish the mission and it will come back home to you. But it is not usually advisable to disable the fail-safe functionality. So once you lose connection telemetry, the drone usually returns home. is what we call RTL, return to launch, or return to home. So the TIGRA can go as far as 20 kilometers.
Okay, great. Another question is, do you organize trainings or certification on drone technology? For example, what ADDA does in East Africa?
Okay, so we can organize trainings, but we do not certify. So yes, we can train you, but we cannot give you a license because we don't have the license to issue licenses to people.
Yeah, and just something to point out on the question about ADDA. ADDA is Africa Drone and Data Technology Academy. It's based in Malawi, and it does not really offer trainings to East African people, but it offers trainings to youths in Africa because it's part of the UNICEF Malawi project. So they offer courses on Certificate of Drone and Data Technology level 1, and they also have level 2 in-person training. And after that, like after you're done with the courses, they always give you a Malawi remote pilot license. Like if you have undergone all the trainings and all the like medical checkups that is required. I'm talking about this because I'm a beneficiary of African Drone and Data Academy, level 1 trusted operator pilot license by the Association of Unmanned Aerial Vehicles International. Yeah, so they always open up applications for the various courses. So you can always check their websites when they open for the various levels of the Certificate of Drone and Data Technology course. We have another question. I'm an open source lover, and I just wanted to find out if you have used Open Drone Map for drone data processing before. And if yes, are there any limitations you may want to share? Yeah, I had the same question. Thank you always for sharing.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to check Open Drone Map. I haven't used Open Drone Map, but this is open source, and the reason for drone mapping most of the time is to get sensitive data. And many OEMs always advise that don't use open source for data security. And that is not to say that open source is not good. Open source has helped a lot of people, especially when it comes to research and learning and growth in the industry. So yeah, personally, I'm going to go and try out Open Drone Map, but I haven't used Open Drone Map.
Okay, great. Another question is, does the PPK needs only one base station and do not need to place ground control points?
Okay, so the PPK works with a base and a rover. So you need to always set your base. A base will be located at a known location. So the base location should have been previously surveyed. You should know that location. It should have a very high level of accuracy. And then the rover can now reference from the base. So ideally, you should have like two equipment, one serving as a base, the other serving as a rover. These are mobile CORS, mobile continuous operating reference stations. Technology has advanced nowadays. We have, very high-end establishments of CORS, especially governmental CORS, continuous operating reference station, that you can even reference from. So PPK, you can have different devices that can serve as your GNSS receiver, global navigation satellite system. So, but if you are going to be mobile, you should have a base. One should be set as a base and one should be set as a rover. So ideally, two for mobile calls.
Thank you. I'm going to run through the questions so fast because of time. A question from Martha. do you have a contingency plan if a drone crashes?
Yes, which was why why I mentioned insurance. So you should always ensure your drones. Drones are expensive. They are not as expensive as manned aircraft, but they have considerable costs to them. So you should have insurance. You should also use aircrafts that are that can be easily maintained. You should also have warranties with the manufacturers. Some of these drones have warranties, especially within 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years. So once you have a broken part, your manufacturer can ship another part to you. You should also have engineers that can fix these things. Very soon, you know, there's so many technologies out there. People are already building drones. There are many young guys out there who are putting these things together. We also have engineers who can assemble all these things together. So yeah, those are basically our contingencies. Yeah.
Another question is, do drones have the advantage of mapping in accessible areas as a complement of satellites, as a mix use?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's why we are embracing emerging technology. Satellite imageries are fantastic. Like we've compared before, there are some areas that are just not clear enough when it comes to using satellite imagery. They're just not clear enough. And some areas are inaccessible. For those specific areas, you can definitely send out a drone there to capture, and then you come back. It all depends on your range. So sometimes you want to get as close, which is what we do. Sometimes we want to get as close as possible to this specific point of interest. So you get there, you set up, and then you send the drone to the area of interest. You make sure that your range is close enough. Like I mentioned earlier, the Tigua can go as far as 20 kilometers. Some of these aircraft can go as far as 8 to 10 kilometers in terms of antenna, telemetry, and range. So definitely inaccessible areas, the drones can cover.
Yeah, there is a question on security by Shafiq. He says he thought it was only his country. I don't know, Shafiq's where he comes from, where drones were considered a security threat. But I think we have a lot to handle. However, to your side, how did you handle such issue on securities and threats and regulations in Nigeria?
So like I mentioned, as a company, you need to have an ROC. This is the general rule worldwide, and ROC is RPass Operator Certificate, which most companies in the drone industry must obtain before operating in this space. So yes, we've gone through all the steps to obtain an ROC, and we have our license to fly now. So yeah, that's taken care of. And then when it comes to security, we need to always sensitize and engage, because this is a government project. We've had to go back to the government to say, look, your people are not cooperating. If you look through my slides, you see one of the areas where I talked about one of us getting shot. One of our guys was shot because they thought that we were intruding on their land. So we had to rush into the hospital, and we were very thankful that it wasn't fatal. So we had to go back to the ministry to tell them that they need to sensitize the local communities. And then so many things happen on field. You get to a particular location, they are quite friendly, and you get to another location and they are quite hostile. You get to a particular location and they understand the technology. They've seen it before in the movies. They've seen it live and direct. And so they understand what you're doing. And some communities are just totally ignorant of what you're doing. And because of ignorance, they just frown at it and all that. So what we try to do is to engage their leaders as much as possible, even to the grassroots level. So we go through the ministries. In this case, some of our mitigation plan, I'm just going to, is to engage the Ministry of Local Government and Community Affairs. So these ones have direct access to the obas. Obas in Nigeria is interpreted as the kings. So the local kings, the local chiefs and all that. So we engage them and we ask them to tell their people that the government is carrying out an extensive project all around the city and the people need to cooperate with us. So this approach has really helped us to progress. And still, there are some areas that are hostile. So in that case, we just avoid them. And when we see that these guys are hostile, they cannot, they don't understand what is going on, we just stay at a safe location. So many times we stay at a very safe location in school premises, in the stadium, in private universities. We stay at a very safe location, and then we send the long range drone out there. So it covers and then it comes back. And so we employ various techniques for us to be able to carry out our missions successfully.
We have the last question. The question is from Rita. She says, I was wondering if the fail-safe mode can be disabled, and yet the drone comes back home. What is the essence of activating the fail-safe mode in order to call the drone back home, if the drone can still do so if disabled?
This is quite interesting. It's called fail-safe, by the way, fail-safe. So the fail-safe functionality has been enabled or has been included in the drone because regulators do not always want us to fly without knowing where our aircraft is. So every time you're flying, you should know where your aircraft is. It is a safety measure and it is always advisable. It is both advisable for you as the owner of the aircraft and for others who you are flying over. You don't want to lose your aircraft. At every point in time, you want to understand what is going on with your aircraft. You don't want any eventualities where you don't know where your aircraft is and then you just lose your aircraft and then you begin to tell stories. You don't want a situation whereby your aircraft falls from the sky and damages properties and even kills people. You don't want that. So you want to always know where your aircraft is and what is going on at every point in time. So sometimes it is advisable to leave your fail-safe functionality on. It is always advisable. Like I said, it is the regulation and we should always follow the regulation. In the case whereby you understand what is going on, it is not an extensive mission, it is not so far off, you can disable your fail-safe functionality just for a short period of time. You can disable just for a short period of time, but there's a caveat. Do not forget, it is always advisable to leave your fail-safe functionality on, and it is a rule by regulators, by aviators, to always leave your fail-safe functionality on.
Great, thank you so much, Adiola. But Adiola, I would like you to share something that I thought you were going to talk about, but you haven't. Maybe some few words about She Flies.
Yes, absolutely. Because of our time, I was really rushing. So yes, She Flies is an organization, an online community, which I founded very recently. It's an online community for ladies, women in drones. So we want to encourage women, more women, to participate in the drone industry. We know that the drone industry is dominated by males. And to be honest with you, many times I have been discriminated against because I'm a lady. They think that the males are stronger, or they are more versatile when it comes to engineering, surveying, fieldwork, and all that. And I'm always a person who believes that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed, especially when you have the passion, when you have the interest, and when you have the knowledge and the skill. So I put together this organization. Currently, we have about 40 ladies who are interested in drones. And because we've just started, we have about 2 or 3 events. We're going to be collaborating with other nonprofit organizations. You're going to be seeing some of our events very soon. We have, let me just share my screen. So we have online presence on Twitter. On Twitter, we are She Flies Drones, at She Flies Drones. On Instagram, we are SheFlies.org. On LinkedIn, we are She Flies separately. And on WhatsApp, you can contact me. My number is also displayed. You can contact me and I'll add you to our WhatsApp platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adiola, for that amazing presentation on drones. That marks the end of our today's sessions. All the sessions have been recorded, and we'll do the sharing to the sharings to all the past participants, including the links that will be shared by our speakers. Yeah, so thank you, Hisham, and thank you, Adiola, for making day 2 a success.
Thank you to all.
Tomorrow is our 3rd day of this webinar series, our 3rd and second last day of the webinar series. And tomorrow we'll be looking at BIM and GIS. Yeah, tomorrow we'll be looking at BIM and the GIS. Same time for the session from 3 p.m. GMT, and I hope to see you joining this session tomorrow. And it's interesting. This is something new that I haven't so much heard of, and I know most of you are also interested and looking forward to this talk. Yeah, so see you tomorrow 3 p.m. GMT for the BIM and GIS talk. Thank you so much, and do have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from. Bye.
Thank you, Sharon. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.